Imagine one day you are sitting in your city and you come to the realization that a very small group of people actually make the decisions about life in your city. And not only their decision impacted how life was carried around in your city, but also the foreign policy in your city state. This was Clisthenes around 500 BC. And today we know him as the father of democracy. Exactly because he proposed this bold idea that involved including more people to the decision making process about life in ancient Athens. And this idea still had its flaws. In the idea of democracy in ancient Athens, only male, about 40,000 out of more than 200 people who lived in that city could actually vote. In the same parallel, if you come to the year 1776 when the Constitution of the United States was being drafted, you could see that it was written, "We the people." And we the people had decided that every human in this country had the right of freedom to speak, of religion, of organization, and so forth. And when it came to exercise this right, this voting right of democracy, it was also only reserved to white male above 21 years old. And you might be wondering why I bring this conversation. The key reason why this is relevant is that when it comes to African democracy, there is very conflicting opinions. And people take different takes, and many people in that matter would argue that there is no democracy in most part in many African countries. But what I want to talk to us today is not whether or not there is democracy, whether or not we are moving to more democratic society, whether or not our leaders in Africa respect democracy. But I want us to think about maybe the possibility of democracy being something that a society determines what democracy would mean to them, how they would assign rights to one another, how they would delegate their right to choose or not to choose. Very often there is conflicting ideas when we hear in the news that a president decided to stay longer in power or a president suddenly decided to amend the constitution and so forth. I'm not saying that we should support or not support these actions, but I am inviting us to have a conversation of what actually democracy could or should mean in our African countries. And for that matter, we have to remember that a lot of our ideas about society and way we do society come from our former colonial powers. If you are Angola, your legal system, your democratic process is much similar to Portugal's. If you're Kenya or Nigeria, it would be much similar to England, except the Queen, of course, or the King. And if you are, let's say, Benin or Senegal, it's much similar to the French system. And we cannot ignore this relevant information. The question is not whether or not we are democracies, but rather how do we want our democracies to work and function? Should we stay with the current models we have? Do we move them to a better place? Most people would say yes. And the question is, how would that better place look like? How would that perfect idea of democracy would look like? So that's the challenge that I'm posing to all of us, and especially to the rising generation of Africans that are becoming prominent in their societies. What footstep do we want to follow moving forward? If you look at Western democracies today, you understand that the democratic process is absolutely bought by corporations. Is that the model of democracy we want in Africa? What type of representation we want in our democratic systems and processes? So again, I invite you to talk to me. If you disagree with me, please tell me I disagree. I think we should go to monarchies. And I would absolutely listen to you and I will present my position. Or if you think we should become anarchy society, it's fine as well. That's what you believe. But you have to show us why we should go the way you believe is the right way. So let's engage in this conversation. And again, I'd like to connect with you. You can connect with me through my social medias, and I am more than welcome to connect with you at a personal level. So please do not hesitate. Don't be shy to connect. I am very much welcoming.